Well, Caleb, it's you.
These quadratic equations are really burning my waffles.
It'll be okay.
Well, how do I do these things?
Maybe this will help.
Is it an iPod?
Wildcat.
What's the deal? What up, son? All you gotta do is relax on these students.
South Beach School, where we like to do the dance. Legs to the left, get some pencils in your hands. We do it for the school, and we do it for the grades. But to solve these quads, boy, you gotta do the dance. Everybody do the quad, solve, 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 quad, solve. Everybody listen, pay attention, class. We're about to solve quads so that y'all can pass. We'll teach you 3 methods. X is what we're after. Start off first, watch. Teach me how to factor. I'm trying to tell them, y'all got to try this. If factor won't work for you, we'll go down our list. Just break it down into 2 quantities. They're linear factors. We solve them with ease. The zero product property comes into effect. Each piece equals 0, and then you solve for x. Ha! There's a shortcut. If speed is what you want, the opposite of the back, divided by the front, and affects is any part of the greatest common factor. The answer to the piece is 0. Believe me, I'm a doctor. Mixing math with music will help the students learn. Keep their minds open. This class is out, John. School where we like to do the dance. Legs to the left, get some pencils in your hands. We do it for our school, and we do it for the grades. But to solve these quads, boy, you gotta do the dance. Everybody do the quad, solve, 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 quad, solve.
I used to win it, yeah, I teach it, but factor in it, how I preach it. We bend it and send it, but the times of factors just don't bend it. But don't you worry, we got another way to solve it. Come in the square, baby, that's the way that I dissolve it. Hang with me in my class and your grades will not diminish you. So let's by my boy, he will get you to the finish. Quadratic, put your tongues on high and low. Divide everything by 8, you know that is how I roll. Move C to the other side, cut B in half, square it, add this to both sides. Try to know your perfect square, you just have to recognize this will simplify when you're going right for lies. Yeah, stand tall, call this the quad solve. All I do is solve, I get it and I can solve them all. My boy's all finished up, he be prime time. I chop the teacher well, mixing it with heel rhymes.
School where we like to do the dance. Legs to the left, get some pencils in your hands. We do it for our school, and we do it for the grades. But to solve these quads, boy, you gotta do the dance. Everybody do the quad, solve, quad, solve, quad, solve, quad, solve, quad, solve, quad, solve, quad, solve.
Oh yeah, we solving it till we fall it. If you get to a problem, we can help if you be stalling. The quadratic formula, it is here to make your day. Well, class, you do the dance, cause this is the 3rd way. Better take out your calc, cause some of these be insane. You gotta plug and chug, and soon you'll make it rain. First you find ABC and write it down on them. Now plug them in, put parentheses around on them. Fix up that discriminant sitting in the back on them. It'll be imaginary or so real on them. Class going bananas, I get it figured out on them. Plus or minus this to the opposite of B on them. Divide the top all by 2A on them. Time to start the class, about to give this test to them. Yeah, dumb south, we gonna show them how to do it. Do the quad solve, it ain't really nothing to it.
School where we like to do the dance. Legs to the left, get some pencils in your hands. We do it for our school, and we do it for the grades. But to solve these quads, boy, you gotta do the dance. Everybody do the quad, solve, 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 quad, solve.
So they're promoting
This is
bullying.
automatically unacceptable. They're promoting bullying.
Can we listen to it one more time?
It's strawberry season down on the farm.
Try Bob
Oh yeah!
Evan's new summer recipes, loaded with vine-ripened strawberries, starting at $5.99.
It's farm fresh from
Oh,
great
God. All right, so we are looking at chapter 5. We're looking at quadratic equations. We are looking at the section of quadratic equations now where we're applying the discriminant to the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is the equation we gave yesterday, but we're also going to review it and go back over and through it today. So quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can only apply the quadratic formula if you first set the quadratic equation equal to 0. So first you got to set that quadratic equation equal to 0. Then we have to identify our a, b, and c values. And then we plug into the discriminant. The discriminant will tell me the number and type. And then we plug into the quadratic formula and get our answer. All right, why do we use the quadratic formula? We use the quadratic formula to solve any quadratic equation. We use it to solve any quadratic equation. An important part is what's under the radical. And we call that part the discriminant. The discriminant tells us a couple things. It tells us the number as well as the type of solutions. Another word for solutions is the roots. Solutions and roots are always x equals. The discriminant can be positive, negative, or 0. The discriminant can come in different pairs. If it's positive, then you have 2, and I know it was on yesterday's worksheet. If it's positive but not a perfect square, then you have what we call 2 irrational reals. And then if it's a positive perfect square, then you have 2 rational reals, and it is factorable. If it is 0, then you have 1 real. That real is going to be rational as well. So on your quiz, probably next Thursday, these would be things I would expect you to know. So I'll probably have a discriminant quadratic quiz, study for our chapter test, take our chapter test the following Friday, and then prep for the final. And that'll wrap up the year. Yes. We're not doing chapter 6 at all.
Everything all over again.
You're welcome. You good now? Alright, so when we look at these problems, what we have to do is start by looking at the equation. This time the equation is equal to 11. We can't have it equal to a number, so we got to subtract 11 to the other side. So we get 2x squared plus 7x minus 11. And then what we're going to do is identify A, B, and C. And then we're going to plug into the discriminant. So when we plug into the discriminant, we get 137. So since the value of the discriminant is positive, then I have two reals, and my reals, again, are going to be irrational because 137 is not a perfect square. Now comes the new stuff. Quadratic formula. So how does what we just did relate to the quadratic formula? Well, what you're going to do is you are going to take that equation and that discriminant value and plug it in. So you have negative b. So since b was positive, you put it in as a negative. The plus or the minus represent that you get two solutions. Square root of the discriminant, which is 137, divided by 2 times a, which is 2. Clean that up, and you get x equals negative 7 plus the square root of 137 all over 4, and x equals negative 7 minus the square root of 137 all over 4. So thus that answer represents two solutions. I don't need the decimals. Do not do it on your calculator. Quit here. Okay? Cool. Example number 2. So first things first, get that set equal to 0. After you get it set equal to 0, you need to know A, B, and C. It's important to pay attention to their signs. A is positive, B is positive, C is negative. Then we are going to plug those into the discriminant. So we're going to find the discriminant. So 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 63. A negative times a negative is a positive, plus a positive gives a positive 256. 256 is a positive, and it's actually a perfect square. So I get two reals that are going to be rational. That means I could have actually factored. So then what I'm going to do is plug in to the quadratic formula. So you get x equals -2 because it's the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of 256 all over 2 times 1. But if you take the square root of 256 on your calculator, it is a perfect square. So it becomes 16. So now this one is different from the last one. We actually do need to simplify because I can take -2 and add 16 to it and divide that answer by 2. As well as take -2, subtract 16 from it, and divide by 2. And get 2, what we call rational, because they're whole numbers, solutions.
So our final answer would be 7 and -9.
Correct.
And you only do that whenever it's a perfect square root.
Correct.
On our test, do we need to put like positive to real rational?
There will be a section where I ask you for yes. But like you don't have to put it, so like if I ask you to solve the quadratic, you don't have to put it. But like there's going to be a section where I literally just ask you to tell me about the number and type of solutions. So today in the notes, I just like to repeat it to review it. For like your homework this weekend, you don't have to do it. Okay, so let's look at example number 3. Step 1, set equal to 0. Step 2, find the discriminant. In this case, my discriminant is positive 121. It's a perfect square, and it is positive. So that means we plug into our quadratic formula, and it means that I am going to get 2 real rational solutions. So when I plug that into quadratic formula, I have to take the square root of 121 because it's a perfect square. And then I split my problem into 2 parts. I split it into the positive and the negative, and I simplify. Next example. Once again, it's equal to a number, not 0, so we have to add 13 to the other side. Find the value of our discriminant. And then since that is a negative, that means I have two imaginaries. So when I plug into my quadratic, if you have a negative under the radical, it comes out as an I. And then you get this is equal to negative 16, or sorry, negative 6 plus or minus I square roots of 16 all over 2. But we know that 16 is a perfect square, so it becomes negative 6 plus or minus 4I all over 2.
You wouldn't split that up.
What?
You wouldn't split it up into two different answers because of the I.
You can, but you don't have to, because the way it's set up currently, it's fine, but you could totally make it like negative 6 plus 4I over 2 and negative 6 minus 4I over 2.
Oh, there's a plus thing there.
Yeah. So like the plus or minus accounts for both. So like I only make you do it if you're gonna get like single number answers. But if you split it, I wouldn't mark you wrong.
And then for that one, how we would describe it? Would you say two imaginary numbers?
Yep. Yep, two imaginary. All right, guys, so then your homework is that next page. Now, listen, there is not a lot of space. I have notebook paper in the windowsill. I want to be able to see your work. I want you to be able to see your work. Your work probably needs to be on another sheet of paper.
Is it only that 1 through 16?
Yep, just 1 to 16. So that page and yesterday's page is due Monday at 10. The Dropbox is already out there.